Last time on Little Wars TV, 6 players refought the Battle of Talavera in July of 1809. Employing a bold new strategy, our French commanders scored a resounding victory over the Anglo-Spanish army and rewrote history in a stunning reversal. Today we explore the question that any armchair general will ask. What's next? If the French had won the Battle of Talavera, what would be the next moves in Spain? As it turns out, the historical aftermath in 1809 leaves us plenty of clues to extrapolate what comes next. In 1809, Wellesley narrowly avoided a second battle after Talavera. This time, he will not be so lucky. What will happen when the British retreat to Portugal is intercepted by Marshal Soult's corps? Can a bruised and battered British force fight their way through to safety?
Marshal Soult, reporting for duty.
Let's find out right now on Little Wars TV.
Before the Wargame, a quick request. Take a few minutes to complete the 2025 Great Wargaming Survey from our friends at WSS Magazine. Here is a surprise insight from last year's survey. Just 60% of miniature wargamers also play board games. Guys in our club found that result shockingly low. Digging into the global data reveals board gaming crossover significantly higher in North America than it is in the UK. I wonder why. There are tons of curious and fun insights to track over a decade of data, but it only works if you take a few minutes to respond before the end of the month. You still have just a few days, so go ahead, click that link in the description.
Today we're joined by 2 guests from across the Atlantic, the father and son team who wrote General d'Armée 2.
Thanks, Miles. It's great to be here in person after all these years of seeing the club on YouTube.
And it's good to see you gentlemen have such fine taste in war games rules too.
Very few people call us gentlemen, but excellent product plug. Before we theorize and make what-if conjectures on the result of the French victory at Talavera, it's best that we study the outcome of the real battle, because that is going to inform what comes next in our new version of history.
Very good. Your war game may have been a decisive French victory, but the 1809 battle was a costly one for both sides. Wellesley and his Spanish allies held the field at great cost. He had lost a quarter of his army, tempering his original ambitions to march deeper into Spain and capture Madrid. Wellesley's next moves were further informed by messages intercepted by Spanish guerrillas.
He was quite lucky to get that message when he did.
Indeed he was. On July 30th, 2 days after the battle, he learned from a captured dispatch that Soult was marching to cut him off from Portugal.
We have received word this morning, accounts that the enemy are threatening the pass of the Puerto de Banos, which leads to Plasencia, in which objects, if they should succeed, they would cut off my communication with Portugal and may otherwise do us infinite mischief.
Wellesley planned to attack Soult and drive him off his line of communication to Portugal. But a shocking development on August the 3rd changed everything. He wrote to Beresford that same day.
I have received a letter from General Cuesta, which gives me reason to believe that it is possible that Ney may be with Soult. The Spaniards will certainly retire across the bridge of Almaraz, and in that case, I cannot go to Plasencia.
Faced with the alarming prospect of 30,000 French troops bearing down on his position from the north, Wellesley raced his vanguard to the bridge at Almaraz and escaped southwest.
The 1809 retreat was so hurried that he left much of his baggage and captured French cannon at Talavera. He also left the Spanish, which reduced his own force to about 16,000 men. You know, I think this real history can inform our speculative history for our upcoming game.
Absolutely. No matter who won at Talavera, the British supply problems were always going to require a turn to Portugal. The difference in your version of history is that Wellesley has lost the battle. So instead of spending a week encamped near the battlefield, he must beat a hasty retreat home immediately. These lost days are critical because it means he will not receive the news of Soult's approach on July the 30th, nor the captured dispatch of August the 3rd. Those are 2 critical bits of information.
Now it's time for some what-if conjecture. Without proper intelligence about Soult's movements, Wellesley may have been more inclined to return to Portugal via the same route he took earlier that month. Retracing his steps through Plasencia, we know from his 1809 dispatches that he viewed this route as his primary line of communication.
That would have been a well-known road home, and for the war game today, that's the road that we'll take.
And it's a path that's already blocked because Soult has been in Plasencia since August 1st. The French also would be in pursuit from the rear, at least some of them.
Even with a victory at Talavera, Joseph still needs to cover Madrid from not one, but two Spanish armies. Cuesta's force was badly battered in your version of Talavera, but Veneguet remains a threat.
We'll assume Joseph returns to Madrid with his 5,000 men, and Sebastiani resumes his role as a blocking force to keep Veneguet at bay. That leaves Victor's first corps to pursue the Anglo-Spanish army.
With the Spanish retiring behind the Taga River and the British returning to their base in Portugal, Wellesley would not have learned of his predicament until it was too late. I believe you might call this a sticky wicket.
The stickiest of wickets, I'm afraid.
That's kind of gross. All right then. With the English potty humor out of the way, let's talk about the setup for today's hypothetical engagement. Here are the available forces. Bear in mind, in our version of Talavera, the British were not as heavily engaged as they were in 1809, so Wellesley's army is closer to full strength in the scenario. I've also assumed, perhaps generously, that his Spanish allies have not completely deserted the British yet. Cuesta has detached a single division to accompany Wellesley west. Blocking the route to Portugal is Soult's Corps, the organization of which we know from historical records. And in pursuit from the rear, there is a potential for elements of Victor's Corps to arrive. Victor was also lightly engaged in our last game, so he too will be relatively in fresh condition. While this does appear to be a very nasty situation for the British, it's not nearly as bad as Wellesley feared in 1809. Despite Spanish rumors to the contrary, Marshal Ney was not, in fact, marching with Soult. He should have been, but petty jealousies left Ney sulking far to the north. My scenario design today is simple. The British have 10 turns to get at least 2 brigades off the far table edge. Any 2 infantry brigades will suffice, representing a successful breakout to Portugal. Soult is in a blocking position, and Victor's possible arrival in the British rear is based on a random die roll. Statistically, he is likely to start appearing around turn 4 or 5, the midway point of the battle. The British will have to move quickly to stay a step ahead.
Oh, hello. So, I'm Christopher Brown. I am the son of David Brown and co-author of GDA 2, and I am Wellesley in this scenario.
Wait a sec. Did he say Wellesley? What about Ed, our Wellesley from Talavera? As a man of unimpeachable honor, Ed declined to resume his position as Commander-in-Chief so that our guests could take command. And also, I think he's been a bit hard on himself for failing to live up to his childhood hero, Talavera.
A man who loses the king's colours loses the king's friendship. You have 2 choices. To hide in England or be a hero in Spain. I shall help you to be a hero. What you do then, sir, is up to you.
So in today's action, Ed has voluntarily accepted a demotion to division command. All right then, let's get back to our new British commander for today's battle.
So my plan is I'm going to feint on the right flank. I will be putting all my Spanish, and again just forcing the French to deploy some of their troops there, whilst my main thrust will be on the left. All of my elite British, so the Foot Guards, the KGL, and my British under Mackenzie and Hill will be pushing up the left flank. My cavalry, I'm thinking to deploy them in the centre to act as a reserve and to hold off if and when Victor's Corps arrives.
The strategy we're going to adopt for this battle is one of holding a defensive line for as long as possible. We have deployed some cavalry on the flank, which we will bring in and hopefully disrupt their attacks again. It's all about stopping that British momentum and stopping them getting off the road that they've chosen to exit the board on.
As the players get ready for turn 1 of this 10-turn scenario, I'll be watching the British left wing with great interest. This is where Wellesley has massed his guards and elite light infantry. but it's also where his cagey opponent, Soult, has tasked Hosse's cavalry with a surprise flank march. Their arrival on this off-table French maneuver could utterly be devastating if the timing works. Of course, that's a big if. On turn 1, the British begin their advance across a wide front, while the French players push forward to seize the more defensible terrain. They're especially keen to secure the high ground by the bridge crossing over the stream and the town beyond it. Unfortunately for the British, a few unlucky command rolls in this opening turn leads to hesitant divisions, which means that instead of a nice uniform advance in the line, Wellesley's army is moving forward in fits and starts with breaks in the line. Ed and Chris share a brief debate on whether they can afford to delay their attack and wait to bring up the hesitant formations, but both players know time is against them and they decide to risk a staggered, uneven advance. As the opposing armies draw closer, French artillery opens fire with unusually devastating effect.
It's been a really good turn in the fact that we have a number of batteries engaging superior British batteries, and we've inflicted heavy casualties on this British artillery to very little casualties in return, which means that they are unable to put down particularly heavy fire on us. This means our batteries can now start to concentrate on the infantry as it comes forward, and again they will slow them down, inflict casualties. So that turn was quite crucial in overcoming their artillery superiority.
And the blows keep coming for the British. Not only are they on the wrong end of heavy French gunnery, a remarkable die roll by your pro-French game master, yours truly, brings word that Victor's vanguard has arrived ahead of schedule, in pursuit of the British since the previous Battle of Talavera days before. Soult raises a glass of scotch in celebration.
We had very little idea of the time it would take Victor's troops to arrive. I believe the umpire had set up a random roll as to how quickly this would happen. We were lucky on this aspect.
So, Victor's corps might have arrived sooner than I expected. My cavalry's facing the wrong way, and my artillery brigade I placed in the centre is also facing the wrong way and low on ammo. So what I'm going to have to do is pivot my veteran dragoons round and hold the line with a single regiment against all of Victor's cavalry until I can manoeuvre the rest of my cavalry and the artillery to bolster my reserve, also bolster my rear.
We're only on turn 4 of 10, and the British are faced with a daunting prospect of a two-front battle. But Chris and Ed waste no time dealing with that challenge. Payne's cavalry and Campbell's infantry about face to contain Victor's vanguard, while the rest of the army continues toward the escape route. Ed advances an Anglo-Spanish division up the British right flank, largely as a feint to draw off the French reserves. The main effort is on the British left, with 3 British divisions concentrating their attacks. The quality of the British infantry begins to show when the lines reach musketry range. Soult is driven back and forced to give ground. He does have an off-table cavalry brigade available to hit the British left, but by rule, the flank marches cannot enter the table farther forward than the most advanced friendly unit. This means that as the French left is forced back, the available entry area for Hosse's cavalry continues to shrink. Finally, on turn 6, Dave decides he can wait no longer and brings in the off-table cavalry. Their arrival is not nearly as useful or decisive as he originally planned. Instead of being on the attack as he envisioned, the French find themselves hard-pressed in a defensive struggle against the cream of the British army. On the opposite end of the table, the French prospects have dimmed as well. Victor's light cavalry is no match for their heavier British counterparts backed by artillery and Campbell's infantry. Wellesley himself attaches to the combat, a sign of his desperate situation, and hammers the French chasseurs.
Brilliantly now, Victor's cavalry is no longer an issue. Wellington realised the threat was imminent to our rear, and he took the rein and led with post of honour with the veteran dragoons straight into the French, decimated the whole brigade. They had to win big in the first round, and they did. All Victor's cavalry is now running away, scattered. My rear is now secured.
After a rocky start, the British players are feeling more optimistic about their breakout to Portugal. But with the turn limit fast approaching, their path to safety is narrowing by the minute. It's clear that Ed's feint lacks the support to force open the northwestern road. Having contained Victor, Wellesley and his rearguard are now too far behind to offer assistance. The only avenue for a British victory lies to the southwest, where 3 British divisions must force open the road. By concentrating at that key point of attack, the British do have local superiority in both troop quality and a pure numerical advantage. Between the edge on the tabletop and the stream cutting through the battlefield, they've managed to turn the terrain to their advantage, anchoring their flanks as they advance. The French commanders, Dave and Dale, realize on turn 9 that they can no longer sit back on the defensive. Something must be done to reinforce their left and disrupt the British attack. Dale proposes throwing Merle's division across the stream and attacking in the center with Bonnet to further envelop from the British position. Marshal Soult agrees, and 2 divisions form assault columns for the attack. Multiple French bayonet charges are driven back with heavy losses on both sides. Close-range artillery rips through the ranks, causing Merle's division to falter. Tactically, the French attack has failed, but strategically, it peels off considerable British attention. Hill's division is tied down, and Sherbrooke finds himself fending off the French from 2 directions. This leaves Mackenzie's division at the tip of the spear, just 8 inches away from clinching the game-winning exit point. Going into the 10th and final turn, Chris allocates an extra ADC to Mackenzie to ensure his division receives orders without delay. In General d'Armée, a poor command roll can cause a formation to become hesitant and halt their movement. But allocating an extra aide-de-camp allows for a reroll in critical situations, and this is most certainly qualifies as a critical moment.
Close. It's close.
4 more. Yes, we've got initiative.
Ah!
Yes.
But the only thing is, I can't
is
charge
Oh,
it
you can't
because
charge. No, he's gone hesitant.
I went
You can't
hesitant.
charge
I went
anyway.
hesitant.
Oh, shame.
So we didn't need the initiative.
Well, I'll take it off anyway.
Very, very rarely do we have games that will go down literally to the last die roll. And it did. Chris, who let you down?
Mackenzie, unbelievable. Flanking the French, all we had to do was pass with a re-roll. Double 1, failed.
The game ended, the British were almost off the board.
It went just as we planned.
Yeah, I think
It was
so.
exactly how we planned.
And when the game started, I thought it was a cakewalk for the French. About midway, I said, it's the Brits. Because they're pushing.
It started off bad, artillery was
Yeah.
bad, but the moment we were able to deploy the Brits in line,
Yep.
Yeah.
the French
Whoa,
were on
whoa.
the verge of collapsing.
Yeah.
And you know what the best part is? Just think how fun this game would be if we played with a good set of rules like
Oh,
euchre.
it'd be wonderful. That'd be absolutely Could you see me afterwards, Mark?
Actually, guys, thank you very much. I believe
Great game. Thank you.
Great game. Excellent
Wellesley
game.
will not be Duke of Wellington
No.
and may actually be a resident in Paris for quite a while.
So, in the end, the Brits weren't quite steadfast enough to get off the board, mainly down to Mackenzie. He had one solitary job, flank charge against the French. All we had to do was pass his command roll. Double 1, didn't go in. French initiative, hit my elite guards in the flank. Index. He will be in my room for questioning later.
If you want to hear more from Dave and Chris about General d'Armée, other games that have inspired them, and more behind-the-scenes talk, visit us at littlewarstv.com. And finally, a huge thank you to our amazing patrons. Some of our long-standing veteran supporters appear on the screen right now by name, but we have hundreds more patrons, and we're grateful to each and every one of you. Bonne chance, mon ami.
He's rolling.
You have to say action so they know shut up.
Action.
There you go. See? Today we explore the question any armchair historian would ask next. The small sentences are really hard.
And I'm keeping it. Keep that bit.